I'm Jerome Cabanatan, the creator of One Stone, The Escape, and so much more. And this is the True North Country Comics Podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics Podcast, dedicated to celebrate Canadian comic book and graphic novel creators and supporters. I'm John Swinimer. On this episode, I chat with Jerome Cabanatan about his latest comic book, One Stone, The Escape. Please like and subscribe to this website by hitting the subscribe button so you'll be notified about new podcast interviews and article posts. This podcast is available wherever podcasts are enjoyed. Please like, follow, and subscribe. Residing in Ajax, Ontario, Jerome Cabanatan is a product of martial arts, comics, cartoons, and a happy family life. The youngest of 3 children, he grew up practicing Taekwondo with his siblings in an effort to become a Ninja Turtle. Didn't work. As years went on, he would find success eventually representing Canada at world-class events as a Taekwondo athlete and coach, recognized for his high energy and animated persona. His love of both martial arts and comics birthed his first title, Tree Kids of Troop 44. His current comic book is One Stone, The Escape. The story of One Stone, The Escape goes like this. After being awakened from her brainwashing to see her people enslaved by the birds, Princess Bakuna remembers her royal past as heir and saviour to her dwindling lizard clan. Can she use the magic of the One Stone to make everything right? So, without further ado, here's my chat with Jerome Cabanatan about his latest comic book, One Stone, The Escape.
So, Jerome Cabanatan, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
No problem, John. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, it's always great to catch up. But before I get going with all the questions, I would like to know, what are you reading today?
What I'm reading today, there's 2. Just finished up Kaiju Max Volume 1 by Xander Cannon. That was a fun one. I actually just found it at Dollarama. I thought it was like a kid's book, but it's like a kaiju story with like the Ultraman, but it's like a prison drama, but with kaiju. And I found that to be really fun. It's not really a for kids thing. It was a surprise pleasure for me. And I also grabbed Lola. It's a ghost story by Jay Torres. It's about the Filipino folklore. That's been fun to read. And that's also because it's a Canadian Filipino book. So
Very good. Now, we recently met up at the Action Figure Comic-Con. It was the inaugural event. And I wanted to ask you, how was that event for you?
First of all, with Danny and James, the guys that were running the show, they did an awesome job, I think, of finding a beautiful venue and the marketing and just the ramping up with like months in advance, pretty consistent, kept all the artists and vendors always in a loop, and anything that went wrong or went awry on the day of, they just seemed to just smooth it over real quick. So I know it was their first one, but it didn't feel like the first one. It was a great show for me, especially after lunch. I did expect, because it is a con in January, post-Christmas, I wasn't sure people were going to be a little tight, but I think after lunch, everybody seemed to loosen up. Ended up being a great time for me.
Nice. Glad to hear. So we're here talking about your latest comic book project, One Stone, The Escape. What if you could talk a little bit about the story? What is it all about?
It's about a brainwashed lizard princess fighting back against her bird colonizers with the help of a magic stone. And that's what it is. There's a race of like lizard people. That's just how it is. And then there's a history of birds taking over their magical stone. And this is just the princess's way of like finding her way out.
And where did you find the influence for the story? Was there anything in particular that said, aha, this is the story?
Okay. It's actually funny because my very, very first book, Tree Kids of Troop 44, it was a bunch of tree kids learning martial arts. And when I was first made it, I kind of wanted to make like an Itchy and Scratchy. Like I wanted to have a book within the book. I called that book within the book One Stone. I had no idea of what the story would have been, but I just knew that these kids in this universe read this comic called One Stone. And a few years passed, and I was approached by my friends Rick Lopez and Craig CK from Next Panel Press, a webcomic syndicate, about running a bi-weekly strip, right? And it felt like it was a good project for me to just make almost like a Sunday strip every 2 weeks in between any of the other projects, kind of like as a palate cleanser. It started off as just kind of like a very, very slow improv session of comics. And then, but like a few weeks passed, and then I started gaining ground on who the characters were and what the universe was. So it's a very, very unique process to make this book in particular because it was very consistent and you play yes and. It was fun. Story started gaining traction. Then I was able to know who people were, know what their motives were. So I put this out online. I had it in 3 separate minis, but I wanted to have it collected. And when I have it collected, I went back and edited and just made sure that I closed some loops and left some open for the next one.
Ah, okay. You talked about Tree Kids of Troop 44, which is
Yeah.
sort of aimed at a certain age group. I'm wondering, does that mean that One Stone the Escape is directly sequel of sorts that's aimed
Uh,
at this group as well?
no, I would say it's an all ages book. So there's nothing bad about it. It's not so much for like the Dogman fans. Tree Kids of Troop 44, Higher the Handbook. I do have a set of graphic novels that are more for like the middle grade graphic novel type people that, they like their Dogman. They like Amulet. I would say less Dogman, more Amulet, more Ninja Turtles, a little bit more of that mainstream crowd. It has a little bit more violence than Tree Kids of Troop 44 because it's, you're fighting against colonizers and it's not a martial arts tournament.
What if you could talk a little bit about your creative process, including the tools you use to create your books?
Creative process for every book is different. I always want to learn something and advance myself in a certain way with every project. So for One Stone, that was all digital. That was on Procreate. I would use my sketchbook to lay out the pages. And then because I had a 2-week deadline for every page in between any of the other projects that I did, I tried to have as many clear steps as possible. Like I just like the steps to be as clear as possible. So I would go do the layouts, do the pencils, first pass to inks, second pass to inks, throw in some colors, okay, and then the highlights, and then throw in the lettering. And that was just the process for that one. It felt like more of a conveyor belt than any of the other books. I do have some other books where I have drawn each page separately because I just wanted to draw cool stuff. I saw an interview with Matt Allison, and he was talking about his book Cancor, and he just said he just wanted to draw the cool stuff first. And he wrote and drew in between all that cool stuff after he got that cool stuff out of his head. So it could show up in any page of the book. And I've done a few books like that. Some pages are digital, some pages are original. I'm pretty everywhere. I want something different every time, not just comic books. Each comic book is a little bit different. Each demographic is a little bit different. Every book within each demographic is also a little bit different. It keeps it fresh, and I'm not brand new to the game, but at the same time, I know I still haven't laid everything out the way that I want to. I think I always want to continuously evolve and try something new. I've actually gone backwards. I think my first Tree Kids of Troop 44, that was actually drawn on Illustrator with my finger on a trackpad on a MacBook. That's not a very traditional way to do things. As I've gone through more digital stuff, my latest project that I'm currently working on, that has traditional pencils and inks. So I would do the rough pencils in Procreate, and then I would print it out, and then I would ink the blue line.
Okay. In looking at it, and we've talked before, but martial arts seems to be a major part of your books. What if you could talk a little bit about why that's a big focus for you?
It's how I grew up. I didn't grow up with a lot of like traumatic experiences because you get put in martial arts, and a lot of the messaging that happens in the martial arts, it's just promoting the positive parts of your life rather than trying to fix the negative stuff. I was lucky enough that I had instructors, and it wasn't just, oh, there's a bad guy, you got to fight the bad guy. It was more about, you just got to keep getting better, like regardless, right? And that's a common theme in a lot of my books because that's kind of just how I want life to be for a lot of people. I think the process of trying something, failing, doing it again until you succeed, I think that's what story is. And I discovered that personally through martial arts. They say, write what you know. And that's what I know. Not just being successful at it. I know what it's like to fail at it. I know what it's like to suck. And I also know what it's like to not suck and get better. So I think that's kind of what most writers try to put into their books. That's my vehicle, and that's the way that I see things. I think it's impossible for me to look at something without the lens of martial arts. Not to say that martial arts is involved in everything. I don't, like, if I'm writing a political comic book, which I probably won't because I'm not super interested in it, they probably won't have jump kicks and chops in it, right? Or maybe it will. It might be more interesting. I don't know. Maybe if there's a politician that wants to hire me, I'll do that. Right?
Well, that's a good outlook to have. Good
Yeah.
to have a firm basis for any story and an outlook in life as well. We were talking about the Action Figure Comic Con at the outset. I wonder if you have any other events or festivals planned for this year.
Usually the Pop Culture Canada shows I do enjoy going to, especially when they're local. I don't really like driving too far. Hopefully I get into TCAF. I do love that show. I think that's probably the best show for me. Lately, especially last year, I've been venturing into like a bunch of different types of events, not just comic conventions, but I do enjoy the book fairs. I've been doing a couple of different kinds of events, whether it's like an awards show, doing caricatures for kids, or at a comedy show, and I have books and I'll do caricatures for that. It kind of fits in the same vibe. So in terms of comic conventions, I'm looking to do pop culture circuit, especially in Durham and the GTA. Hopefully get into TCAF. Probably be a few other shows along the way, but you'll see him at some comedy shows, especially comedy shows by Scarborough's Got Jokes. Shout out Janice. I like doing the posters for them, and that's another avenue. This year, I want to continue to branch out beyond just regular comic conventions. I would like to do more kidlit shows. So if you know anything, if you have some kidlit shows, some library shows, comedy shows, something more comics adjacent, not just comics, because to be quite honest with you, sometimes like the regular comic crowd might not even be looking for my stuff. If they're there looking for MCU stuff, maybe the indie Dogman book isn't the thing that they're looking for. So I'm still trying to find or trying to create or carve out my own niche in this field. And that's my way of saying I know a little bit of what I'm going to do, and I know less about what I'm going to do throughout the year. So,
well, keep your options open. That's what you got.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Yep.
Now, you hinted that you're using traditional tools for your next project. Wonder if you could talk a little bit more about it, or is it still under wraps?
No. I'll gladly talk about it. So it's part of a series. It's part of a series called the Seeker series. First one is called The Sanity Thief. It's based on one of the authors' doctoral thesis on imposter syndrome and its triggers. One of the authors, Lauren Jeffrey, she's a psychotherapist, and she runs this program to help with mental health, people dealing with imposter syndrome, especially in like the financial sector. There's the other author who does kind of like the poetry side of it. So it's basically running her course about imposter syndrome and its triggers and what it can be mistaken for. There's pages of work and fact in there, while Sean explains the course poetically, and I do it visually, while they're talking about how we as seekers are seeking validation or accomplishments, but we kind of doubt our own selves. I start drawing those feelings in like an action movie. So it looks like almost like a Indiana Jones finding treasures. And then there's the sanity thief. And that's like the sanity thief is the person, and often it's you, like stealing your own joy. When you have an accomplishment and you kind of downplay it, you don't celebrate your wins anymore. That hurts yourself. That hurts you later. And that's what the whole book is about. It's about how to find a way to kind of like celebrate your wins and identify your own wins and see where you stop yourself. That's what this first book is about. So I've been very, very excited to work on that. Often I will get work sometimes, and that's all it is. It's just work, and I'm waiting to finish it so I can do my own thing. But because the subject matter aligns so much with what I want to accomplish, whether in art or martial arts, it aligns so well. And I met two great people, and I love working with them. And I think right now, currently, I do believe it's probably some of my best work that I've done yet. And I know I got to use a Pentel brush pen and work traditionally. The reason for that, I could have gone traditional and done more stuff earlier. But years ago, I acquired these bag of ballpoint pens and Sharpies. I think somebody was working at an election, and they just ended up with a box of ballpoint pens and a whole bunch of Sharpies. And, I grew up not trying to waste stuff. So I kind of committed to myself that I'm not going to go and grab microns or grab a brush pen or get like good stuff until I rip through all this cheap stuff. After years and years and years and years, I think I had to buy my first Sharpie in like 10 years yesterday. But then now, okay, training's done. I'm ready to go to the real one.
So it sounds like you got a lot on the go, not only events, but also new projects. So wondering, where should people go online to find out about your current and your future projects, and buy your books too?
They can find me on Instagram. That's probably the easiest way to get to me. It's at Jerome Cab. That's JROAMCAB. If they want to purchase any books, you can search my name on Amazon, and you can grab it there. Or if you want to maybe take a little bit more time and help me out, you can go to Crowdfunder with no E. So Crowdfunder, Fundr, crowdfunder.com/art of Jerome Cab. You can order some digital commissions. You can get caricatures done. That's usually where you can go. But if you ever just want to contact me through Instagram, I usually answer.
Very good. Well, Jerome, those are all the questions I have for you, but I'm wondering, is there something I didn't ask that you'd like to get across in this interview?
I'm available for work. If somebody's got a story, whether it's like a one-page thing. So a lot of times people get concerned when I say like I'm a cartoonist. Sometimes they want a book, but maybe a whole book is hard to commit to. I'm good at making strips, and we can do like a one-page strip for your business, or maybe do a little mini comic for like an event that you're running. The comics medium is more than just Batman and Spider-Man. That's kind of what I want. I'd like everybody to know that the comics medium is alive and well, and it lives in a different way than what most people think now too. So be open to that. And when people find out, then they can hit me up at Jerome Cab on Instagram, and then we'll get to work.
Thanks to Jerome for the chat. You can discover more about Jerome Cabanatan on Instagram at JRomeCab, that's JROAMCAB. And thank you for tuning in to the True North Country Comics podcast. I invite you to visit the True North Country Comics website to listen to even more conversations about creators' insight on making comic books and graphic novels. I also encourage you to subscribe via the website to be notified about new podcast interviews and article posts. This podcast is available wherever podcasts are enjoyed. Please like, follow, and subscribe. You can follow along True North Country Comics on most social media sites. And you're encouraged to send any and all feedback to John at truenorthcountrycomics.com. Thanks for tuning in, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics Podcast is copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2026.